Yo, man. Hello, Miss Rusty. I've been clipping out there recently, so I need to make sure that I'm holding it far away. So, Miss Rusty, clips out there, and then it just Rusty is all you get. So that's going to be different today. So, welcome to the Public Access Podcast, the podcast on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, qgbn. I am here today. I have a special guest because it's fucking Tuesday. And I'm going to bring him on here, right now. Clifford Myers, how you doing?
Rusty Diamond, I'm doing good, buddy. I love your energy. I love your intro. This is great. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, dude, thanks for being on. This is my Tuesday energy. It's
good. It should be your Tuesday energy. It should be your everyday let's get up and go energy, right? Like I'm all about it, man.
It is. It may last, it may not. I might end up talking like this for a little bit, but I don't know why. It's not my real voice, but I feel like talking this way right now. But dude, fucking you can also swear on here if you like, if you feel that if it happens. Sometimes I usually have my person bleep it out, but they've been on hiatus the last decade, so it's been it's so you can
I will be honest, I kind of I default to swearing even on things that I'm not supposed to swear on. So if this was a don't swear thing, I probably still would have sworn at some point. I've been horrible for it over the years because I was raised in this factory town in it's called Oshawa in Canada here, and we had two GM factories, and so it was factory workers, blue collar, and from the age of 4, I was raised around fuck shit fuck just it was ingrained in me. Every time something happens, fuck shit fuck, so it's been hard for me over the years to scrub it out, especially if you do a news channel or something that locally and they want you to behave yourself and you're like, why are we here?
Yeah, spend a few dollars, you can edit it out later. Make sure you tip the editor there a little bit. And
I think it goes full circle. I think when you're an entertainer and you're talking on podcasts and random things, you got to behave yourself on some things. You can go wild on some things, but then if you get good enough, like Bill Burr level or something, you can just go wild on Conan. Just let it loose, and they're like, we'll figure it out. We're just glad he's here. Right?
Yeah, it's going to be a good thing. You don't want to stop that process right there. I mean, if swearing's part of the way it goes, if I can't, what is it? If I can't smoke and swear, I'm fucked. Trying to think of
is that a proverb? Where'd you get that from?
From Trailer Park Boys.
A Canadian gem. There you go.
So where are you with the Trailer Park Boys? Where are you with Canadian comedy shows such as that, or Kenny versus Spenny, or I guess even Letterkenny now is kind of a thing that's kind of.
Shout out to K-Trav, who plays Squirrely Dan. He's one of Canada's greatest comedians. A lot of people don't realize how good his stand-up is because he's crushing it on that show. So they're like, oh, Squirrely Dan from Letterkenny, but he's one of the best storytellers in Canada. This guy is he's an A player through and through. And it's just he was one of the first guys that ever took me on the road. And I have a lot of love for him, a lot of love for the Letterkenny team. To kind of address what you're talking about with Canadian comedy, all those shows are so quirky, that you mentioned. Kenny versus Spenny, Trailer Park Boys, Letterkenny. I would throw in Kids in the Hall as the creme de la creme. That has to, if someone's going to go top tier Canadian comedy, I really want to hear the argument as to why Kids in the Hall wouldn't be number one. And I will sit here and pretend like that argument's real, and then I will address your concerns. None of those other things happen without Kids in the Hall. If Kids in the Hall didn't go, hey, we're going to step up and do comedy our way, the way we want to, which is a theme that you get in Canadian comedy from most of our productions, our comedians, a lot of our comedians that want to really go for it. If you notice, they're all people that do things their own way, right? Norm Macdonald probably being the best example of that.
Oh man, fucking norms. Yeah. I mean, dude, like so much of his shit, like it was just so well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of it was perfectly written or if he was just fucking going, man. Like
It was
some of it was
embodied.
tough.
It was embodied. He was in it, right? Like a lot of people don't realize like I know Americans don't actually understand the Canadian identity. I know that because Americans very much are about the American identity, and there's not a whole lot of room to explain those other perspectives. But the Canadian identity is very much caked in American influence. And so we're constantly in this weird psychological mode of fighting for our independence. Like, no, I'm not American, I'm a Canadian. Yes, most of my TV shows are American and I listen to American music. You know, just look around the world, you become influenced by these great artists that get platformed in America and that, you know, shoot to the stars, and we love it. We're influenced by it. And then the stuff that influences us locally, like the Canadian stuff, it's so insular, like it's so small. But if you notice, like it's all kind of along the same theme. Like another Canadian comic that really like blazed the trail was Tom Green, right? He was one of the first podcasters in a sense.
Yeah. Doing his like it was Tom Green Live. It was just him in his basement
doing wild shit, right? And like that's what I'm saying. Like Canadians
like his
show. That's it. His show and like
before.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were talking about like when he started doing like Tom Green Live. You're talking like when he was
that's
on
the
like
podcast.
Public Access.
I'm talking about the Tom Green show. Yeah.
Like back in the mid 90s.
It was like a public access show. It was like early YouTube. It was pre Freddy Got Fingered. Weird shit.
Dude, Freddy Got Fingered is such like, dude, I don't know, man. That's such a fucking great movie, and it's so like so much deeper than it appears on a surface level. Like I could go on about Freddy Got Fingered for a long time, dude. Tom Green's fucking brilliant. That guy, and people are just like, hey, he's a fucking idiot. Like, no, dude, he gets people on a whole different level than a lot of other people, and able to kind of do be able to hold the mirror up to society and just really have like here, dude, this what's really going on. This is what, you know, you're missing. And it's cool, man. I fucking like Tom Green a lot, and I still watch.
I kind of feel like he comes from this school of like what I call discomfort merchants, right? Yeah. So like literally a lot of comedians, especially Canadian comics, are kind of merchants of discomfort. They come to you with like things that make you feel weird. Like you said, you really like Freddy Got Fingered, and you feel like there's something deeper to it and you don't understand why. Well, it's a very uncomfortable movie with very uncomfortable comedy, real feelings of feeling dejected, humiliated, wanting to belong. These are stuff that we all really connect to. And when you're taught those things through discomfort, you're kind of taught to embrace it a little more, that it's okay, that you're not the only one isolated in the shit that is every day being a human, right? Yeah. Like that's why I really, when I see like going to Norm Macdonald, right? Like Norm Macdonald would make people feel absolutely uncomfortable on their own talk shows, right? Like that dude in Australia where he's on this talk show and he's talking about how he loves transgendered people, but not the serial killers. And he's really trying to make that point. He's like, I like them when they're transgendered. I don't like them when they murder. And it's so uncomfortable, but he's looking at a cultural issue in the eye, and he's like, I'm going to welcome you to absurdity. I understand you want me to play by a certain set of rules and talk about things in a certain set of ways. I'm not going to. That's a discomfort merchant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's going to get through to a different crowd of people where, you know, being taught into that certain way and, you know, learning from that certain way is just kind of going off in a million ways, but you got someone doing it kind of the fucked up way.
Yeah.
The unorthodox way. Yeah. The discomfort merchant, as you call it. That's, it fucking gets through. It's like, oh, okay. That's good, man. Well, that's good. That's a good way to get, you know, discussion going too.
It is. I think it welcomes curiosity. You know, I think discomfort in general welcomes like real-time experimentation, real-time feedback. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be so afraid of discomfort. I used to I wanted everyone to like me. I didn't ever want to step on the wrong toes. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. When the whole canceling thing started happening, I literally deleted my Twitter because I was like, I'm not going to have something I said at 23 burn me when I'm 49. And it was like, it was this weird fear of consequences for things that aren't there yet, or things that won't be consequences for. And I started getting into this like nutshell of, oh, being uncomfortable is a bad thing. And that's not true. I don't believe that at all now. Like I used to avoid watching nature videos, you know, like Nature is Metal and shit like that, when they're like crushing each other. Now I have to watch them. I'm like, I have to accept nature for what it is. I got to look at it in the eye and look at the discomfort. I hate how uncomfortable it makes me feel. There's a lot of things that make me uncomfortable. Bugs, mold, right? Like you show me a cup of mold in it. No, that I hate it, right? But as I get older, as I'm like, you know, leaning more into the education space where we like use discomfort as an educational tool through comedy, for me, I'm like, no, this is something it's an education. And we don't see it that way because school in a sense is so, I don't know what the right description for, you know, when the clinical in a sense, like everything's so clean and a certain type of way, and everyone's presented the information, everyone's supposed to learn at the same pace. And I don't really believe that. I think we're more individuals. And so, so we should be approaching learning on an individual level. How do we do that? Right. I think it's a little bit more in depth, a little bit more granular to getting to those answers. You know what I mean?
I tell people to drop out of school right now, just fucking stop going. But dude, don't stop learning. I mean, you can learn anything you want on YouTube that you could ever think of in the whole wide world. Go to YouTube University. And if you really want to know, if you want to do college or anything, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, they all have everything on there. Every course, every bit of material on there. You can learn about it. Like, fucking go for it. You can learn anything you want to learn. But like, I mean, I did fucking terrible at school. I was the fucking drizzling shits. I don't know how I graduated middle school. I don't know how I graduated high school. I don't know how I graduated college. I did, but I mean, high school I had to pay off my teachers, but that's a different story.
But maybe we should get to that story. But I want to say though, like, you know, you've done hypnotism, so you've learned a lot about the art of persuasion, maybe more than some business school graduates. Right. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? You've done comedy, you've done wrestling. You have more understanding of audiences and crowd psychology than maybe some socialists, right? Because you're in it, the man in the arena, you're in it. Right. Yeah, and there's something different. Like, sure, you didn't nail it on the academic stream and you had to pay off teachers for some shit. I do want to hear the story, but I think what happened was you just went, this education ain't for me. I know the education that is for me, and it's going to be sporadic. It's not going to make sense to other people. I'm going to do this and then do this and then do this. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Like, that literally is a way of learning, and that's fine. I've done the same thing. Totally fine. I got to hear the story.
Oh, okay. So about the, so when I was in high school, I had a teacher, I won't get into it. At least one of them. So I had family who worked for Nike. And
okay, they're just doing it.
Yeah, with that, every year, if I was able to get him a pair of shoes, at a discounted rate, I was able to never have to come to class the whole year. And I would get an A.
For not even free shoes, for discounted shoes.
For discounted shoes, like probably 40% off.
This 40% teacher gave off. Zero shit.
Yeah, he could have got a lot more out of me. And then also I'd have people doing my work so I can go do other shit. I was like, okay, so yeah, so you seem like you're a little older than me. I'm 40. So
wow, so rude, Rusty.
Yeah, I think you're like 41.
Rusty
42.
Diamond. I'm 37, baby boy.
Yeah, 30. Okay, well, good. I thought you said, I thought you said 49.
No, I think I might have used that number in example, but I'm 37 years old.
Oh shit. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're like the same. Okay. So like in the late 90s, CD burners fucking were becoming a thing, and you go buy the fucking big old spindle of fucking CDs.
Yeah.
And
buy like 26 of them would work.
Yep. Yeah. You only find out after an hour and a half of burning shit on there, and it's like, oh fuck, man, I got like 3.5 tracks on there. And so I got into not YouTube, eBay, and I started selling. I had a shit ton of wrestling tapes, and I started selling those on there. A shit ton of video games, started selling those on there. And then I ended up with this thing. It was these were all, okay, this is like late 90s. So these are all like little tiny, I forgot what they're called, what the format was, but little files of like maybe up to 30 seconds of porn. That was like, some of it was like black and white. Some of it was just like really shitty. Most of it didn't have sound, but it was 70 fucking hours, and it took like 13 or 14 CDs to go and fill it all up.
So wait, you would fill these CDs with porn?
Yeah, like I got one copy of it. Like I bought it off eBay for like $20, and then I was selling it for like $72 to about $100, with about 80 being what I'd sell it mostly for. And
that's a hustle.
Yeah, for like 12 CDs. And then I ended up doing that, and so I ended up started paying people to do my work. Like in my photography class, I started paying a guy to do all my work. In that one, I started paying a kid in my math class to do all my work. That did come back to bite me in the ass when I tried to do that class in college and failed it twice. But I didn't have to do the work then, so I'd have more time to go and repackage and repurpose some clips of porn. And so, but yeah, so then I ended up doing that, and I had another teacher I paid off, but that was just straight cash. So that one was just for the grades. I didn't get a missed class for that one.
This is the question I have, right? Like when we're facing the way we do education and like post-secondary and all this stuff, like something like, okay, so that's real life. Real life is, hey, I bought porn to flip porn and sell porn on DVDs. This is a real fucking moment. I'm talking to people that are interested in buying this, actual consumers, right? Like in the real world, it is not, there's nothing handsome about this. It is, you know what I mean? It's flawed, it's blemished, it's real life. And where do you get that education in college or university? Where do you get like understanding someone's real intentions, or looking at like people's desires, or for example, porn is a really good kind of like study tool for human loneliness or human connection, like what drives us. Like a lot of, I find it interesting that more academics, academics, they go on these podcasts and they start talking about, oh, if we do this with nuclear energy, and if we do this, right? And it's like, no, but like, why in pornography do men come on women's faces? Like, that's a reality of the world. That, like, I'm not trying to be crude here. I'm saying that is a real reality. People watch that. People are interested in seeking it out, right? Why do we do it? We never talk about it. Is it because it's too uncomfortable? Is it too much of an uncomfortable conversation? Because if we talk about it, maybe we start talking about something. We start talking about men. Why would men want to do that? Right? Like, why would women allow that? And of course that happens men to men and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. But like, that's just one example of one uncomfortable thing where it's like, you're not going to be having these conversations in a post-secondary institution. So to me, it's like, okay, so post-secondary institutions come with a lot of limitations because they're afraid to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I mean, they're not only are they afraid to be uncomfortable, especially now, like you can't bring that up. If you bring that up, dude, you're fucked. You're everything is just fucking, like, if you try and do that in school, like if a teacher brought that up,
of course, like, well, it'd be considered making it an unsafe environment, right? Whereas like, I really want to qualify what I'm saying here is that I'm having this conversation with Rusty. You were talking about pornography. That was, I took as a social contract permission to talk about it as well. I'm not going into Walmart today and having this same conversation with the person at the till, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Right.
because context matters. And
context matters a lot.
Context matters. Almost the entire thing is context, right? And so what I'm talking about is like, you could create a context to open up a forum to have those kind of uncomfortable conversations. It doesn't have to be in everything or whatever, but I'm saying is, if you're limiting education, you're most likely limiting outcomes, you're limiting future developments, future discoveries. You're going to limit a lot if you're limiting the way we think. But if you open the way we think, we're most likely going to break through those limitations and come up with more creative outcomes and maybe more efficient outcomes, right? And so like, it's this idea of embracing discomfort that like, I'm seeing it on every, look at, I'm fat. Why am I fat, Rusty? And it's literally like the fear of the discomfort of exercise, or like putting myself out there and failing, eating instead of addressing my problems. And all those things are very uncomfortable to talk about, but literally every problem in our society is uncomfortable to talk about. We just had another school shooting that's uncomfortable to talk about. It was a trans person that was a shooter, super uncomfortable to talk about. We need to talk about these things. And like and it's not about like talking about them to have an opinion and have a take. It's just to talk about them. And I actually like to talk about things and be wrong, right? Like, let's talk about it. I do not care about right or wrong in this conversation. I just care that the words are out there, so anyone hearing it uses that and they're able to join the feedback loop and be like, hey, have you thought of it this way? Have you considered this? When you stated something this way, did you mean this? What was the intention behind it? We don't get into the practice of understanding each other's intentions and context. So we jump to conclusions because it's more comfortable. We point fingers because it's more comfortable, right? We drag people through the mud because it's easier to drag them through the mud than drag ourselves through the mud, right? And so like, literally, this is the hill I'm dying on now. So like, the moment you brought up porn, because I was just having this thought the other day, I was like, we never discuss it out loud. Like, it's all a thing we know everyone does, but we don't actually discuss what happens in there. And it's crazy.
And I mean, the less we talk about it, the more powerful it is. I mean, like the more, you know, the, like with hypnosis, like I do work with a lot of people who have PTSD, and like, just to be able, like, if someone has PTSD, like I have them fucking one more time, you fucking relive it. You go, you have to experience it. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to fucking suck. But afterwards though, like, it becomes a lot less of a big deal in your life. And it's like, cause it's out there. It's not this thing you've been fucking holding on to forever. That's just kind of, you know,
you're kind of creating, you're creating a form of catharsis, right? Like I used to open up for a hypnotist at a Dave and Buster's. And it was a horrible, it was the worst gig ever, because he had a hard rule that I wasn't allowed to make any jokes about hypnotism. And I was
that fucking, what a fucking,
and I was like, well, if you don't want me to make jokes about hypnotism, you're gonna have to hypnotize me and like get me not to tell those jokes, bro. And so, but like, when I see that hypnotism used in therapy, that it is used in PTSD and trauma and like all that kind of forms of healing, this can be used as a form of entertainment, but that's so interesting that it's also used as a form to help people realistically. I believe the same thing about comedy. That's why I created corporate training that literally uses comedy to connect them to their goals and overcome blockers, to do it in a different way, and not using comedy for entertainment, but using it as a tool, the same way that you would with hypnosis and PTSD. And like, you know, a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, or like that rapid eye therapy and all that kind of stuff, they do ask you to relive it. And I think it's one of those things where like, it's super scary to do that. It's hard to go through, especially if you went through something really horrendous. Like, that's really tough to go back to. But also, like, if you can come to the conclusion that the past has no bearing on the present, like, yes, like time exists, and yes, that happened, but what you do now really is the only thing that matters, and how you respond now really is the only thing that matters, right? That's why, like, we get up on a Tuesday to do this, because we both are operating under the mode that this matters. I don't care if one person hears it today, maybe the person that needs to hear it 20 years from now will. that's what it is, right? That's what it is. You
Right.
put it in the universe and that's it. And like, I've come to a place of acceptance, and this is from someone who has PTSD. So like, I have come to a place from like acceptance, where that was actually one of the reasons why I avoided discomfort so much, was it kind of brought me back to the other things that hurt me. Right.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to go into it.
And I mean, and so with that, then, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's because then, I mean, like anytime it comes up, then again, like it's not, you know, it's going to hit you more from,
it's going to come up and it's going to come up in different ways, right? Like,
and at times when you're not fucking super relaxed, it can come at a time when you're already on edge and something fucking happens, and then just off the fucking races.
I'll share like not everything, but I'll share one thing that like I experienced, and it was a real learning curve for me about this whole idea that PTSD will appear in different ways. So like when I was 17 years old, I was working at a street youth drop-in center. And an altercation broke out there, and it got physical, and one guy took out a knife, he stabbed the other guy, and that guy did die. And it was you know, right here from me to the computer, I watched a guy, like his life, you know what I mean? Like I saw that at the age of 17. It was very formative. It was scary. And then throughout my life, I had people like, you know, guys try to front on me, like they'll like put their shoulders up, and I get like, oh no, oh my God, see someone pull out a knife, and like I would get like afraid, like anything that like, you know, people call them triggers, right? Like these things, like I would be really, really concerned about it. And so like in the present, I would immediately be going to the past. I'd immediately be going to that thing that happened when I was 17, which isn't happening now. Right? Like I'm not witnessing it now. The altercation's not happening now. So for me to try to detach myself from that experience, it wasn't as much as detaching, but accepting that it happened, accepting that I learned from it, and accepting that I'm actually a much better man for going through it, because I have more empathy for the human condition than I think I would have otherwise. And it's making me think of people differently. Like I was able to empathize with both the victim and the culprit. Right? Like I was able to see both sides of a coin, and it was just unfair and ugly. And, you know, the system just kind of was created this, right? It was kind of a product of the system. And it was one of those things where I strapped in, and I was like, not till my 30s that I started really addressing that I can't keep going back to the past when shit goes bad. I need to be the man I am now and face it in the present. And now, like, you know, I've been having, you still get in conflicts and altercations, right? Like I've had I've had conflicts last year, and during the pandemic, people were really uppity, right? So someone being rude at the grocery store or something like that. But like I had someone flinch at me, and then I immediately got up and I yelled at them. And then
they flinched at you?
Yeah, they're like, "Yo, come on, bro!" Like,
okay,
those, right?
Gotcha.
Come on, right? And I immediately overreacted. I got out of my car. I yelled at them. You know, I was very angry. And then I went home that night, and just like I had to let it all go. I was like, "You're gonna do this forever? Every time you get triggered, you're gonna yell at someone. You're going to raise your voice. You're going to get mad. You're going to get sad. You're going to say life's unfair. You think you're entitled for everyone to treat you the way you want to be treated? Like, have you watched Nature is Metal, bro? like that's where you know, I'm starting to adjust my perspective and being like, oh, okay, I could see that part of it was actually me making it about me. Right? Like, and that's a hard thing to admit.
Right. And it's a very hard thing to admit. And that it's, I mean, the only way that, you know, and same with being offended, like the only reason like someone's offended or feels uncomfortable, it's on them. It's not on the person that's doing it. It's whoever.
We can definitely learn from it, right? Like I've offended a lot of people in my time, but like, this is the funny thing. I've never offended someone enough that like people have gone out of their way to cancel me, simply because I don't have any leverage, right? Like I don't have anything that people can really be like, oh, we're gonna tear that empire down, right? Like maybe one day they'll want to do that shit, and then this clip will circulate. But
me too, man.
But
I mean, that's not a good thing to say, man. Like, you know, like shit, man. Like,
but like,
oh fuck, man.
I'll tell you the most offended someone's been at me, and this is true. And I actually talk about this when I talk to corporate clients, because I'm not changing who I am. I don't change myself as a person. I am this like hippie punk dad that loves comedy, loves learning, and that's what I'm up to. I'll have these kind of conversations with you. When I'm talking to a corporate client, obviously we're a little bit more squeaky around the wheels, but we're still talking about the same subjects in different ways. Yeah. I've equipped myself to be able to do that over time, and it really came from the most offended someone came at me. They were so mad because I made a joke about cats. Okay.
Wow.
I know. I said, I was watching Mythbusters. I got drunk. I wanted to bust a few myths of my own. And no, cats do not have 9 lives. This is myth, right? It's a joke about getting drunk and killing a cat. And that's a dumb joke. It's a clearly dumb joke. I did not watch Mythbusters get drunk and kill a cat. That never happened, right?
Right. Yeah,
but here was the complaint, though. If you're going to make jokes about cats, you need to equally make jokes about dogs. And this was in 2009. In 2009, I had someone talking to me about equality in comedy material. And I was like, that's so interesting that you believe that should be reality. Like that in their head, they believe anyone that would make a joke about a cat makes a joke about dogs, make a joke about women, make a joke about men, right? Like it's weird to me that we get caught up in the, hey, no, keep it balanced, keep it equal. It's because like it's so uncomfortable to go, it's not going to be equal.
God, that would be such a fucking great like stop in your set to just go, you know what? It's not going to be equal. That's the end of the joke, you know. Like, cat's fucking dead.
Cat's dead. Dog's in the field looking at the sunflowers, wagging his tail at the sun, right? Like it's not going to be fair. And the way I look at it is it's people's expectations versus understanding the intent of the performer, the intent of the person speaking, right? Like, because my intent is not to hurt you.
Right.
My intent is to make you laugh. My intent is to entertain you. My intent is to introduce you to discomfort, absurdity. Yep. But in a safe way. You're not going to get hurt from this. Everyone, it's just words. You're going to be okay. Right.
And it's not ill fucking conceived. It's not, you're not trying to fucking, fuck the cats, man. Those fucking cats.
I'm not trying to rally you to end all cats, right?
Yeah. End all cats. Hashtag end all cats is not.
Yeah, I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah, it's just a fucking joke, man. And so, yeah, that's fucking weird. Like, did someone come up with that, like, and say that to you? So is this someone in the audience?
It was someone in the audience.
Just another comic?
No, it was someone in the audience. The shit I've heard from comics is a whole other ball game there, but
yeah, we can have a different podcast about that one.
That's a whole other conversation about false expectations for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I go to bat for comics, so I love them. I love them till the day I die. It's like that Doug Stanhope quote: "I could quit comedy, but I couldn't quit comedians." I very much find that I learn the most from comedians, for better or for worse. And the ones I don't like kind of teach me the most things. So like, I have to kind of accept that. I continue to not like them because that's my personal preference, right? Yeah. But like my own material, like I'll tell you about some of the stuff I'm doing on stage right now, Rusty. I have a joke about accidentally sucking a priest's fingers at my grandfather's funeral. I have a joke about my cousin thinking that I want to fuck her because I liked one of her photos on Instagram. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
I have a joke about someone stealing the baby Jesus from a Christian bookstore. He stole like 5. He had a pocket full of messiahs, this kid, okay? So I'm going into like religion, death, uncomfortable things. I'm doing it just like you see here. Mr. Teddy Bear Man having a good time. Why? Mm-hmm. Because these are the things I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the rituals that we have in a religious institution, or our discomfort with death. That like, I know if it's like the movies where the spirit is hovering over the body, my grandfather would have been laughing his ass off. He would have been like, "Oh my God, how'd you end up in this scenario, you silly goose?" Right? Like, it makes for a good joke. You know what I mean? Like I get to throw out the punchline. You haven't lived until you've tasted a priest on your terms, right? Like it gets
Right.
it gets the crowd with a ha ha ha. But it's a joke. It's dumb. It's at the end of the day, it's a ha ha, and we move forward. But it's also a real story, a real experience. I really did suck a priest's fingers at my grandfather's funeral.
Okay, wait. Were you doing? Was this like communion or something?
You got it. He had the church cookie, the communion wafer, and I tried, instead of going like that, I tried to go in.
You went in like he was feeding you.
Yeah, like the way a goat would.
Like a goat, yeah. Like you put it up and it fucking sort of nibbles on your fucking end of your finger.
You got it. And
yeah.
And so like my family's around me, like, what is he doing? And I'm like, oh, like getting fish hooked by the good father. And you know, and like my wife at the time, she's beside me. I could hear her whispering. She's like, Clifford, no, stop it. What are you doing? No. Like the audience reaction to the side of me. And so I have questioned. I was like, do I end up in these situations because subconsciously my comedian mind wants the story? Or do I just get into these situations because I'm that aloof in the moment? You know what I mean? Like, what is it? How do I get myself in these situations constantly? So I'm just like, how does this happen to me? Is it like, because it's not premeditated. I didn't go to my grandpa's funeral being like, I'm going to suck a priest today.
Right.
Like, I didn't do that, right?
Yeah. Yep, you can wear one of those shirts that, you know, I went to my grandfather's funeral and all I got was to suck on the priest's fingers, and you know, you don't get that t-shirt. So
I think you just came up with my my merch though, so thank you.
Yeah, there you go, man. You know, everyone needs one of those. And so wait, so this was when you were married, you did this?
Yeah.
So how long ago was this?
That happened maybe 2018-ish, 17-ish.
Like 5 years ago.
Yeah. This is a fairly fresh story still. Like, so it's still something I'm working on stage and trying to find the punches and make it funny. Like there's a lot that I put into the joke. Like I frame it about being bad at funerals, and I talk about other times I've wrecked funerals. So like, and I lead up to it, right? Like I have a framing, I have a through line, and it ends with that, you know, almost a typical punchline that you would expect on any given joke. And then like it's just a way of me being hybrid, combining storytelling, joke telling, traditional confessional style, but in the form of a joke structure, you know. So like I'm obsessed. I've been doing this for 14 years, you know, Rusty. I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the craft of comedy. I'm obsessed with the craft of like interaction. Like I really like riffing and crowd work and stuff. So for myself, like I really enjoy like getting things out of people, like when you talk to them and like get fun, because there's gold in there if you dig in, you know what I mean? And and all this, it's funny to think like all this inappropriate behavior, all this discomfort, all this weirdness and being offended and life in comedy, and that it's leading me to being like, yeah, I got to build an education company for sure.
People have to know how to do this. It's a good life skill.
I've read a lot of books on this subject. I am very convinced that we learn better through a state of play. I'm very convinced of it. Like it's one of those things where it's like there's not enough data for you to convince me otherwise. We haven't done this enough for you to prove me wrong. So for me to go like, well, no, you've just said, no, that won't work and won't go towards how do we incorporate play into forms of education, right? It's not a thing really.
Yeah, someone could tell me how to fucking run a business at school, like take a whole fucking 5 years of schooling on that. But, you know, are they going to think, hey, man, you can fucking get porn off of eBay and then flip it with a CD fucking burner? Probably not. And like learning how to do a lot of stuff, like there's been a lot that, you know, you just kind of have to, and it's okay to fuck up. Like it's same with comedy.
Absolutely,
like
brother.
I mean, I fucked up plenty of times. I fucked up in a lot of things. You know, it's
Well, it tends to be the fuck ups that end up the ones that we watch the stories of, right? Like we end up looking at stories, and most of those stories are I fucked up on A, B, C, D, and E. It wasn't until I got to Z that we started at A again, and like started moving over. And I really am like, we have to like accept that people fuck up, but also like with you and the porn, you were doing it. You were in the arena. You were figuring it out live. Now, there's an important piece of that. That's a young age to be doing that, which is interesting because that means you actually had an element of courage to be disliked at a young age. There's this book called The Courage to be Disliked.
Well, oh, okay.
Right? And so like in society, we don't look at porn DVD hustlers as top of the totem pole of contributors. Okay, right. I'm sorry to tell you this, Rusty.
Fuck, man. Like I was thinking, like
I know you thought it was a civil service, but it wasn't.
Okay, all right. I mean, and I was a child too.
How old are you?
I'm 16, 17.
So you were young. You were doing this thing, but what I'm saying is there has to be a little bit of courage that I'm going to do this in spite of what people are going to think of me. And maybe as time went on, you're like, well, I don't want to sell DVDs with porn anymore. I'm going to podcast. I'm going to talk to other people about their ideas. I'm going to entertain. I'm going to learn hypnosis. I'm going to learn wrestling. Like that to me all seems like very positive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like, yes, there's a part of your path here that's like, oh, that's kind of uncomfortable for sure. But I tried selling porn DVDs and failed. So I'm actually looking at someone that's more successful than me in that regard.
It worked, man. I mean, I fucking made people like realized. I was talking about this with I had a friend from went to middle school and high school with. I haven't talked to him for over 20 years. And I talked to him, and so we used to have a fair, like a city fair, like a carnival type of thing. And in middle school there was a dunk tank, and I would go. I was very fucking. I don't know. I was kind of a shit sometimes, but for the most part, I was a pretty quiet, calm kid. But man, I'd go in there, and I've learned that I can start talking shit, and I know that I can get under people's skin very fucking well as a teenager, making adults fucking pissed off and wanting to come throw fucking balls at my fucking thing to make it drop me into the fucking water. And once I realized that, once I realized I can make people fucking I've had three. So in wrestling, I've had, I guess, 3 people that have tried to fucking kill me. That were fans. Yeah, the first one was within the first year I started. And I got fucking lucky. And then the second one was I don't know, maybe 5 years in, I think. But no one's tried to kill me since then. So that's good. But I had fans fucking running after me, trying to find me, and I have to hide out
because you're the bad guy and they didn't like you, that kind of thing.
The first one I was the neutral party, and I don't know what the fuck I did. The second one was a bad guy. It was my first time being a bad guy. My first time being a bad guy had someone want to kill me, and so I found out that
that's interesting.
That's something that I'm all right at. I'm pretty okay at it. And so with comedy, when you go up there, let's say you're doing even a 10 minute set, let's say a 10-minute set, quick little something, starting hosting a show or something. How much of it do you have written out word for word? Every little bit, every little nuance every time you pause. How much of it is crowd work? How much of it is something that you can kind of play with? Or what's kind of your style? Just for instance, if it's 10 minutes, but then if it's different, if it's an hour set.
Yeah, for me, it's always going in with a goal, okay? Because the goals change from show to show. So if this is a 10-minute set, but it's a 10-minute set at a theater show where people paid $60 to see the headliner. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be doing straight material. I'm not going to do any crowd work. I'm going to, because of the goal of that is to be a strong opener and set the headliner up for success. That in like, so if I'm an MC, my goal is to more in a hospitality role to make everyone feel comfortable. I'm a liaison between the crowd and the show. So I want to be the beginning, middle, end story through line for them. So I'll probably do more crowd work. I'll get to know people, give something for comedians to reference, make it feel holistic. And I call this story of the night, creating a story of the night. Right. And so like they get, because they're never going to get it again. They never had it before, right? And they just got it now. And like, that's something special to me. And I think if you're in the MC role, you're equipped to help create the story of the night for sure. Whereas let's say I'm just dropping into a club to do 10 minutes, then the goal will be, I want to try to get this one joke to a different place, right? Like I got to like, okay, the grandfather's story today, I'm going to tell it 2 beats slower, or I'm actually going to open with it. Oh, that's a really uncomfortable one. I'm going to open. The goal today is to open with the grandpa story and see if I can pull it off. Right. Like it'll literally be like craft goals. Like, okay, I'm going to try these 2 new punchlines. I'm going to try this new tag, like that kind of shit. Right. I've been lazy in the past where I like would only rely on crowd work and not write. And that was actually a very big problem. It was a problem for me because, when you're a performer, you probably heard this before, but you're competing with yourself. You're only ever competing with yourself. And the more I put off writing my material, the more I put off deep diving into what I find funny, what is funny, what from my life is story fodder and good for the stage. And like, I've actually was missing out on connecting things. I have a showcase coming up for Just for Laughs. I most likely won't get it. Like, right. It's a big pool of comics for a very small amount of spots, and it's more of an Americanized program, like for an American audience, even though it's in Canada. So yeah.
Hold on one second. Okay, so for the Just for Laughs, you said you're trying to book a spot on it.
Oh, I'm showcasing. So I'm going to do 6.5 minutes at a comedy club. The scout for Just for Laughs will be there, right?
Okay.
And I'm actually on one of the last showcases. So they've been doing this for months. They've been watching comedians from all over Canada. And some of these comedians will get to be on Just for Laughs this year. And that's
Have you done it?
I've never done it. In my 14 years, I've never done it. I have flopped, I think, 6 showcases. Not necessarily flopped. I just didn't get them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I never took it personally because they're a business. They have a program to run. They have things that make that program tick. I either fit in or I don't. It's literally that simple. So you got to take your identity out of it. Like, it's not like them saying like, oh, you're not a comedian. The industry doesn't want you. That's not what it is. Right. Yeah. But for that showcase, yes, I'm going to come in with my best material. I want to be like, hey, this is what I've been working on over the years. This is how I like to do comedy. I'm going to give them a good 6.5 minutes, and I'm going to have a fun time that night. I already know that's what's going to happen. Right. Yeah. But what I'm doing in terms of my goals, well, my goal that night is not to ace my set so I get on Just for Laughs. My goal is to create a great 6.5 minute set that I can then show other people and that may want to book me for things. Like it's a little that simple. And I'm taking things from other stories in the past that I no longer use anymore, but there was jokes or tags or punchlines in there that I really liked. And now I'm repurposing. I'm taking some old material. I'm going to repurpose. I'm going to use this as a chance to practice my repurposed set for the first time. So what I will be saying to these bookers will actually be the first time I'm saying this way ever.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Cool.
And that's my goal, because I'm on a different path in the sense that like my long-term goal isn't get on Just for Laughs so you can get on Conan, so you can get on this and then get on that. That's not what it is. If you get to be a part of those things, it's a more of a gratitude thing. That's like, oh, cool. I get to have this experience and opportunity that's going to give me a chance to tell other comedians what that was like and be able to help my community and completely, continue supporting and fostering comedy in Canada. I see that as a good thing, but my goals are long-term in terms of helping Canadian comics, right? Like, and helping us build this company that will get to the point where we're going to be able to fund comedians and help comedians be able to work in different ways. That's why I created a product that allows comedians to work off stage in case there's another pandemic, they're going to have work this time. Right. And so that's really important to me. And these big goals put these other goals in perspective. All of a sudden, my identity is not dependent on what a scout thinks of me. Right. Like to be honest, like we should empathize with the scouts. They got a big job ahead of them. They're watching a lot of talent and they got to break a few hearts. And that probably doesn't feel good for them.
And they might have to pick someone that more fits the bill for what they like. If they only have, you know, a certain spot that they need to get, like, but it's not the person, like if not like I don't know, like a certain comic with a certain style, like you need to have, like, if they have a quota, like you got to have a comic who's fucking way out there, and like, but then you got like 3 of these guys that are fucking great, but like only one of them fits the bill, but you think 2 of the other ones are better. And
it depends.
You never know what they want for the show.
It depends on like that's the thing. Different individual scouts will have different individual ideas on what that kind of diversification looks like. Is it literally checking boxes by like, we need one Indian person, we need an LGBTQ person, like, do we need that? Or is it a diversity of styles? We need someone loud, we need someone quiet, we need someone absurd, we need someone logical. Like, I think it's probably a little bit of all of it. Right. Yeah. There's probably a lot of conversations because the end goal is that they want to put on the best program they can put on. Right. Like, I have to believe that's their goal. You know what I mean? That they're like, they don't want their show to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pick it from anyone, pretty much. I mean, who wouldn't want to be on JFL, man? Like,
no, like, come on, man. We started this off talking about like how this Canadian insecurity about asserting your own identity. I grew up on JFL. I watched everyone. Everyone on there, and it was Deborah DiGiovanni that changed it all for me. She is a Canadian comic who is just so worth her salt. Like, she's always writing jokes. She's hammering. She lives in LA now. But like, she was just in Canada for the Snowed In tour. I got to catch her again, and it was she's just as sharp now as she was then. I grew up watching her, you know, and so like, I look at those comedians and I'm like, would I like to do that once? Of course, I would love to do it one time to be a part of it. But if that's not a part of my story, then that's not a part of my story, right? Norm Macdonald never did Rogan. That doesn't mean he was less Norm Macdonald.
That would have been a good one.
That would have been a great one, but
I would have enjoyed watching fucking Norm Macdonald and Joe Rogan. That would be a fucking
that would have been
right there.
It would have been funny because like Norm is so next level that like with Joe, I feel like Joe's like, you know, he's got a macho bravado. He's been very open about that. So I feel like it would have been a really fun tit for tat to find where they step with each other comedically. Like a good example of this is there's an interview with Theo Von and Louis CK. That's it's incredibly uncomfortable. Like, if you watch it, it feels very uncomfortable, but you understand that there's 2 very different comedic styles, 2 very different comedic perspectives playing at the same time and trying to, like AI, trying to understand each other's algorithm. Yeah. Right. And like Louis, after the fact, has gone on to say, like, I look up to Theo. I love his comedy. Like, it was awkward, but I would do his show again. And so anyone watching that can come to their own conclusions. Oh, Theo and Louis don't like each other, and oh, this and that. But to me, it's something more beautiful out of it, that we actually got to see comedy persona in play. Right? Like in wrestling, you call kayfabe, but like in comedy, it really becomes us. It becomes a part of our living, breathing purpose and way we think, the way we approach things. So where Louis is dissecting things with a scalpel, Theo is giving benefit of the doubt and putting out an open hand. And it's just a different approach. It's a different approach, and both are accepted because it's like the William S. Burroughs. right? Nothing is true, everything is permitted. Right. That's kind of the truth. The truth is like, yeah, nothing's true and everything's, you can kind of do anything, right? And that's what makes people so uncomfortable. If everything's permitted, what are you going to do? Well, we've already seen what we do with permission. Yeah. People do horrible things with permission, right? Like, so if you think the worst thing was a comedian giving themselves permission to say something shitty on stage is worse than a human being giving themselves permission to shoot children, like, fuck off. Everything's permitted. Like, you really got to get back to nature. Like, if you keep saying that we are above nature, that we're not a part of nature, that we are not connected to nature, you're going to deny what it means to be human. And that's so insane to me that entertainers are talking more about humanity than academics and theologians and all this kind of stuff. It boggles my mind. And I think it just comes to the fact that we're the men in the arena. We're the ones doing it. We're in the thick of it. We're talking to the drunks. We're talking to the mentally unwell. We're shaking hands with the homeless, right? We're like, and we're not wiping our hands off afterwards. That is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, there is that to me is compassion. That to me is love. That to me is kindness. Is being in this, okay, I'm around someone giving themselves permission to be a drunk asshole. I'm still going to be like, this dude deserves a lot in life. I'm still going to walk him to the cab, give him $30 and say, get him home. Right? Yeah. Like, I'm like, what are you on about?
Yeah, still just a fucking dude, man. He's a dude, you're a dude.
And while there's breath in his lungs, this dude can become better. You know what I mean? This dude can change shit around. This dude can one day be talking to a 17-year-old getting ready to sell porn on the streets and being like, hey, let me tell you about why some of the shit that I went through that made me do this and this and this, and how like I ended up coming to a better place. You hear it when like men have children, or like, you know, people have children. That's something that we hear like changes people. Obviously, big events, trauma. I went through a divorce at the very beginning of the pandemic. So like, boom, I'm very emo, right? Yeah. Like she was my first girlfriend. And I talk about that on stage. I talk about how like I experienced my first breakup at the age of 33, which is the age that Jesus died. And I think what I went through was a little worse. He did not have to co-live during a pandemic. Okay, Rusty, like and he was a carpenter, right? He had benefits, but I went through this thing where who I thought was my forever person, I absolutely in love with this woman. I had a kid with this woman, right? And all of a sudden, the story, my expectations didn't happen, and I've never seen that version of me ever. I know I've been angry in the past. I've never seen that angry. It's like imagine Bruce Banner at his angriest before he has the accident that turns him into the Hulk. It's like that was life before the divorce. And then all of a sudden I discovered the thing that turns me into the Hulk. And I became so angry. I was angry at every trauma that ever happened, everything, every false promise, every lie, whatever it was. I was mad at it all. And then when I started doing more looking into it, I was mad at me. I was mad at me for not being proactive enough to save my marriage. I was mad at me for isolating her with my anger, right? I was mad at me for being immature. I was mad at me for not being able to provide. I was mad at me, man.
Do you know how fucking hard it is for people to say that? Like, and how, I mean, that's fucking huge that you're saying that. It's so many people just couldn't be me, and just want to say it like, I fucked up. I fucked up plenty. It sucks. It's
absolutely, I fucked up hard, man. Like, I make jokes about like this whole me starting this company started because Shopify fired me. I started the company a minute later. Right? Like I literally put a video up. It's pinned on my Instagram right now. And like, I just like, starting the other comedy company, taking what I learned from there. And I shit talk them a bit on stage. I have fun with it. Right? Like I say, I got fired from a tech company. I won't say who it was, but it was Shopify. And then like, I keep going on. I talk about what it was like to be fired in my underwear, wondering if the person who fired me was also in her underwear. Rhonda, tell me, were you in your underwear? Right? Like, and because that was a real moment that I'm like, oh, this has never existed in human history where people get fired in their homes in their underwear. That's a different experience. And that's a different relationship. The person who fired me was actually a wonderful woman. I think she was a great person to talk to. I liked her a lot, and she also had the job to fire me.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? But I have to, just to loop back to what we're saying, is I had to go back to going, I still fucked up. I'm still the reason why I'm fired. Right? You can say, oh, if execs did this, oh, if this happened, oh, and I can be real butthurt that I was part of high growth period during the pandemic and let go the moment it got a little hard. I can be real butthurt about that. Or I can go, what did you learn? What are you taking with you? What are you doing next? And just
you
own
went
it.
without a fucking minute.
It was less than a minute. I think it was maybe like 42 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like that can send someone into a fucking spiral of depression and self-loathing for the rest of their life until they're fucking fucking dead.
I was not giving myself the time, bro. If Shopify taught me anything, it was how to be proactive. It was how to step forward and take initiative. I learned an incredible amount of personal resourcefulness from that company. I learned how to lean on me, to self-learn, self-direct, self-teach. These are things that will, I'm telling you, I'm a Bible college. I got expelled from Bible college. I flunked out of film school. I had 50% in every course in my last year of high school. I'm not an academic. I'm not, right? I'm not at all. But what I'm realizing more is the power of education is so much stronger than even academia has given it, right? They're trying to give it as a status thing, and it's really not a status thing. It's a skill thing. And we can teach each other these skills one-to-one. And we can do this on recording so other people can learn from us. This is how we share. This is positive sum because there's room for everyone at the table. We don't have to exclude anybody. It's fucking insane. And you tell me I can only become this if I pay this amount of money, go in this amount of debt. You're really putting humans back, right? And
right.
We have to stop the barrier of entry of learning how to make money, learning how to path out a career, learning how to do the things that we really want to do. And then if something requires a certain amount of specificity and like a doctor, learning how to do heart surgery, obviously go that path and go to that school. But we got to lowering the barrier of entry to being able to learn about this stuff will get more qualified people into these positions, especially stuff like politics, right? Right now, you only get people in certain higher status families or groups. It's a social thing, and that's the way
join
it
the
works.
right club.
But the right emotionally intelligent leader could change everything, right? You think about America is such an interesting example. We obviously feel it here. It's funny, your left right thing, we feel it here in Canada. We have liberal conservative. It's not as heavy handed, right? Because we don't have guns to protect. So our conservatives aren't as loud as your Republicans, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but our conservatives are honking their truck horns in Ottawa. We have different problems, right? We got convoys, okay? But this whole left-right divide, I do wonder what happens when someone from the right goes, my insecurity really comes from I hold on to these guns because I'm so afraid of my family not being protected. And these new ideas I see introduced in society, about gender or about sexual preference, all this stuff really scares me. And I go into these old tropes because they make me feel comfortable. And then someone on the other side go, well, I'm a white woman and I'm woke because it makes me feel like I'm part of a club. And when I'm showing that I'm allied with LGBTQ people, it makes me seem more, better to my community. And it's a signal that I'm putting out there. But in reality, I'm more apathetic towards it because I really just care about my family and getting by day to day. And I feel horrible for that. If you just had people from those sides being self-reflective out loud, then those are the emotionally intelligent leaders that are going to rise and help people learn how to do that. And then guess what? There's no woke and anti-woke. There's no left. There's no right.
Yeah, that keeps the discussion open and going. It doesn't just shut it down on one side and be like, well, I'm right and you're wrong. I don't want to hear the other side. Like,
and
there's nothing.
Those were just two examples, but each individual has different reasons why they may aspire to that or want to be a part of that tribe or a part of those ideas, right? Like if someone like, if the idea of freedom really speaks to a human, like for me, it definitely does. Like, right? Like autonomy really speaks to me. The ability to do what I want, when I want, how I want really matters to me because I'm at my best work-wise when those are the rules at play.
Yeah.
So, and I put out my best work. I put out my best work when it's on my terms. And so it's like, it's like, I got to go to other people and be like, no, you're actually way better off not micromanaging me at all. Like actually not even checking in. You'll be good. Just let me go do it. And then like a cool fucking thing will happen. Right. But we don't have that kind of trust in each other. That's not built. So what I'm saying is like each individual will have their own reasons and they'll have their own pathway to come into self-reflection and being like, why do I ascribe to this? And what do I think of the other people? It's probably not nice, but imagine if you said it out loud to someone like that, right? Like, oh, I judge you because you're a parent with a gun. I think that you made your house unsafe for your child. And right. And then they go, well, I understand that concern. That's something that scared me too. That's why we have this safety locker. And like, and I'm so, I'm someone that's like very much like, yes, I believe in personal freedom. I believe in educational freedom, but like, I'm also not a gun owner. Right. Like I'm just not. If there's an uprising today, bye, I'm done. Okay, so like I'm not a gun owner. I'm not subscribing to like classic family values per se. I am completely accepting of new gender norms. I'm not saying that gender replaces sex, right? Like you have male and female sex, and like all things, like all discoveries, like when we discovered electricity, we're going to go through a period of trying to understand what this is. And so like understanding that there's more to these gender conversations, and we've gotten to the point where we can subscribe to identities that help us become more of who we believe we are. That's actually a good thing, right? So like if a man believes that I subscribe to identifying as a woman, and then they just do their best work, rock and roll. But if they just did it because, oh, being a woman will get me a job and being a man wouldn't, that's crazy. Right? Like the only way I can win in competitive swimming is to go against the woman, right? Like that's a funny conversation to have. These are all case studies.
Yeah, but then that's something like if you make that joke, like people aren't going to understand, like not, some people aren't going to understand that it's like there's fucking funny, there's fucking comedy in this, like it's absurd and it makes people feel uncomfortable.
Well, especially with these topics that are very uncomfortable to talk about, like when you make a joke about it, it feels like someone's throwing cold water on you, right? Like it's like you're almost ahead of them in the thinking pathway. Like you've thought about A, B, C, and D. When comedians get to the point where they see the humor in it, it's not at the expense of the people doing it at all, right? They see the humor in like just like I guess how far the learning curve is in human self-discovery, right? I think that really is the funny thing. Like when comedians are looking at the humor of like trans people, I honestly believe they're trying to understand it. Like I think like people were so mad at Dave Chappelle, but I think the more material he made about it, the more feedback he got from it, and the more negative feedback and positive feedback, he was probably able to find a middle ground and have a more nuanced perspective because of being so combative with the subject matter, and like I don't think Dave Chappelle is intentionally being an educational theorist or anything like that, but I know he cares for education and he cares about how we learn. And I honestly believe he was trying to learn something. And did he do it right? I don't know, bro.
Yeah. I mean, he got a lot of people talking.
He also got a lot of money out of the deal too, right? Like, like that one subject netted him 6 specials. You know what I mean? So like he was, like there was a benefit there, but I also believe that both can exist, right? That you can benefit off of things and fail at the same time. Like it's a success and a failure to a degree. When I say failure, I just mean it in scientific terms. Like, okay, you didn't quite get that idea out there the way you wanted to, or it didn't connect the way you wanted it to connect, but you explored in this way. Like there's a lot of things that he goes into, especially with like in what is it? I think it's called the Bird Revelation. I think that's what it's called. It's a special he does where he's talking about the Me Too movement, right?
Oh, okay.
And like he's coming from a specific Black American male perspective, and he's like he's almost like, I think there was a part of it where he's like, I'm trying to warn you, people are going to use this movement against you, right? Like you probably could have made the same kind of through lines for Black Lives Matters in any kind of movement that the media latches onto and then uses for their own purposes, right? Yeah. And like, did he nail it out of the park? Did he get all the points home? Maybe not, but then we wouldn't be here discussing that, right? And then thinking about that, and like, so it's almost like, well, good thing it wasn't perfect. That's good, or else we wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be like, oh, there was that perfect thing.
Yeah, it would be something that we reference in the notes, like cited example 1, and then it's like, okay, he got that perfectly. Okay, so this is why. And
as time goes on, some things may age well, some things might not age well, but that's the point, is that culture moves on. Let's actually like think about the Bible for a second. Okay. So like I was expelled from Bible college, but I did learn a thing or two from there. And one of the things I learned is that the Bible is written in 2 ways. It's written culturally and universally. So there's things in the Bible say don't get tattoos, right? Well, at the time, people would get tattoos to express their devoutness to pagan gods. So that was a cultural thing. Not saying that I, Clifford, in 2023 can't have tattoos, right? But when it's talking about loving your neighbor, that's a universal thing. That's something that existed then, exists now, it'll exist tomorrow, right? So looking at things culturally and universally for all pieces of work. So let's just say the Bible, we're not going to say it's this like all-powerful book with all the answers, but it's a piece of work, right? So that's the same thing with Dave Chappelle. That's the same thing with Hannah Gadsby. People were mad at Hannah Gadsby because she did a storytelling special called Nanette that went into a sexual abuse. And it was more of a serious storytelling show. They were mad that she called it comedy or whatever, but it was a piece of work that she created that existed, that spoke to people both culturally and universally. There's going to be things that stick out just for the culture at the time, things that stick out more universally. Who are we to vilify them because we're not in their camp? Like, right. I doubt Hannah would have me as her opener personally, you know what I mean? But like, God forbid I say that she doesn't have the right to go out there and crush it. What do you want, right? Like,
and art, if it's good, it's going to make you feel something. I mean, whether whatever way you're making art, I mean, like, if it makes you feel something, it makes you feel fucking, if it makes you people that fucking upset that, you know, they're like, you can't fucking do this. Like, you're doing something right. She's fucking.
That's kind of a good point, right? Because like, it was a lot of men, right, that were mad about it, and it's like, okay, so let's have, just like when we were talking about the porn, right? Like, let's have a conversation about this. Why are men uncomfortable about when women talk about being sexually abused and assaulted by men? Why do we immediately take it as we're being vilified, right? Like, what is that? I'm really curious about what that is. Like, it's deep insecurity in manhood. And I wonder if it's like that whole, like, we're all capable of evil. We're all capable of being a monster. And if you're aware of that, you're better for it, right? Like, you know, you're a monster, but choose not to be. I wonder if there is something culturally where like men know deep down they have the ability to be a monster. So when they see a man being a monster, it creates a fight or flight in us, right? That, oh, this is going to land on my doorstep, or like, where it's like, well, no, actually being able to hear about these conversations and being able to admit that, like for example, with the like sexual harassment. Now, I've never gone off and sexually harassed a person, but like that definition can change. Maybe this would be considered sexual harassment. I was at a party once and I was talking to a woman, and while I was talking to her, I was a little drunk, and I put my hand on the small of her back. And she told me that made her feel uncomfortable, and that unwanted touching was not going to be what's happening here. And that was kind of the first time I got that conversation, because culturally at the time, unwanted touching was sort of very permissible, especially from a factory town. You always had guys slapping the woman's ass as she walked by. That was the culture. And in the moment, I could have, you could get defensive and go like, oh, I wasn't doing anything, I was trying to hurt you, blah, blah, blah. Or you can go, oh, I crossed the boundary for this woman. I made her feel uncomfortable. That really sucks. She's at a party to have a good time, just like me. Right. And I did that. And so what happens now is I don't do it again. Now I go forward, and when I'm at parties, I'm keeping my hands to my fucking self. So and you learn from it. But if I'm too scared to talk about it because, I might get canceled or whatever, then other men going through these same thoughts aren't going to be like, oh, how do I not be a fucking tool?
Yeah. How do I not do that? Yeah.
Right. It's uncomfortable. But we're starting to see a theme here, aren't we, Rusty?
Yeah. It becomes so fucking taboo. And then it's like, okay, well, here it happens again, when it could have just, if we talked about it as as a whole.
So people want to compare, right? Like being like, oh, I'm on, there's people that go, oh, I'm on the Hannah Gatsby side of things. I'm on the Dave Chappelle side of things. Where me as a professional in this industry, I go, both get to exist. Everything's permissible. Nothing is true. Right? That's what I get to. I go, they both get to exist. They both get to speak their version of truth and curiosity into reality. They both get to do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've seen it to where, I mean, even, I don't know, with some comedy stuff, I've seen it where there's only if, I don't know, some shows have just got it where you can only have one way of thinking. If you don't do that, dude, you're not going to there's no way you're being on the show. I swear.
I have a friend who he's in a smaller scene, and he's different than every person in that scene, and they don't like his form of comedy. They don't like what he does, but there's an audience for him for sure.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I've watched him become ostracized. I watched him get isolated when I'm looking at a real talent, right? Someone that is talented, that can learn from their mistakes, that is just being curious out loud. And I get it's making you uncomfortable, but that's what's happening, right? Yeah. It's almost like you could turn around and go, well, I'm actually deeply insulted that you're not being curious out loud. I'm being deeply insulted that you're echoing everything that we read on the internet, and that you're just saying it in a different way to try to feel original. I'm really offended by that, actually, because you're stepping all over what comedy is, which is supposed to be your voice. And I'm not hearing your voice coming out of your mouth. I'm hearing a voice I've heard 1,000 times. So I'm offended now. You know what I mean? But what am I supposed to do with my offense? Absolutely fucking nothing. We move the fuck on, because you know what I mean? What, I'm going to sit here and be upset. You're stepping on the good name of comedy. No, that's what I'm saying. It's supposed to be messy. You should, it's supposed to be messy by design. Stop trying to clean it up.
Yeah. I mean, I got to a point where it was, every comic had 3 jokes that they would have when I'd go up, and I mean, it was a joke about my cats, joke about what or who I, have sex with, and Orange Man bad, Trump, and everyone had those 3 jokes, and it got hard, man. I'm just dude, I don't this, it was what was approved for comedy, and there wasn't any even going at those any of those and opening up discussion about them. It was just you do it this way, and
because we're not really trained to consider our own perspective first, right? We don't actually go into it going what do I actually think about this thing? For example, if you were to talk to me about the trans issue, asked me to make a joke about it, I couldn't make a pro or anti joke. That makes no sense, right? I'm not, because I'm not pro or anti, you know what I mean? It's everything's permissible. Go ahead, right? What do you want about? So what I'm looking at it more so is what's my perspective on it? It's Clifford. What is Clifford's reaction to this? And this is Clifford's reaction. Clifford looks at coconuts, and goes, oh my God, it's got nut in the name, but a coconut's a fruit. That's confusing. And then someone goes, yeah, and what about the peanut? What about the peanut? Well, that's a legume. A legume. I can't figure out fruits and legumes, and now we're going into gender spectrum, right? That's Clifford's perspective. Clifford's perspective is he doesn't understand a lot of things, and he's here to learn. That is Clifford's perspective, right? Like I can tell you this one story too, just like kind of keeping on the line of this. Yeah. Just because recently I was just in Ottawa, and I had a lesbian hit on me in front of her wife. And her wife had no eyebrows. So I didn't know if she was mad or happy. I didn't know what was going on, right? Like she came out of the closet, but her eyebrows stayed, right? So that's what was going on. And I like talking about this because I like talking about real relationships, real people, real time discovery, right? Yeah. Like that's interesting that I was flirted on with a lesbian in front of her wife. Polyamory is interesting. Like there's a lot of conversations on the table that if you come in saying, here's my take, here's my opinion, end all be all, well, no. And guess what? Culture won't be like that either. Culture's going to change its mind. And what's going to happen then? You're just going to change your mind. I've seen that a fucking lot. I actually have seen that through, I'm sure you've seen it in wrestling, but I've seen it in comedy where like,
both of them.
I'll see like a fat comic doing all fat jokes. But then the moment that's not popular anymore and Patton Oswalt's popular, oh, they're doing all nerd jokes. The moment that's not popular anymore and Bill Burr's popular, they're speaking truth to power, right? Like they're literally switching. And it's like, okay, so you just go where culture tells you to go. Yeah. Right? Like where like I can confidently tell you I go where Clifford tells me to go.
Right. I have one of the guys that trained me in wrestling. His name is Derek Drexel. I always like this piece of advice for when you found your own voice and like what Clifford's gonna do in any situation. And he told me it is when you can say, okay, Clifford is going into McDonald's and they fuck up his order. What is Clifford gonna do there? And like, once you can figure that out, then you can kind of put that into any other part of any other experience of what you are when you're.
So that's actually, there's an educational theory called inversion, where like you picture the bad thing happening. So you know what you would do in that situation, right? So like, okay, I'm going to go do a drop off my kid. My ex is mad that I didn't fill out this form for soccer. Okay. And then I'm thinking of my response, right? And then like, so then it comes to fruition. Well, I went through that inversion process and now I can go and go, hey, I'm really sorry I didn't fill out the form. I know that was my responsibility. I should have done that. I'm going to get that to you tonight. Or maybe I show up with the form. Right? Like the thing is though, is when you bring yourself into a state of inversion, you are really opening yourself up to future proactive success in the sense that like you're almost like preventative success, right? Like you're preventing the bad thing from happening just by thinking about it. It's the whole idea, like if someone put a latch on the door on September 10th, September 11th would have never happened. Right? But that person would have never got no glory from stopping that bad thing from happening. That's why we put we don't give any flowers to prevention, where prevention is probably one of the most powerful things, right? Like if we can prevent something really bad from happening, that's good, but there's no pats on the back. There's no social reputation points. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you just did it to do it, I just very much think about that. I think about like what Clifford will do in any given situation. And if Shopify have never fired me, I do wonder if I would have kept basking in the comfortability, if I would have kept being that dog in the field of the sunflowers, you know what I mean? With surrounded by dead cats. Because I'm curious if, because now that I'm building a business from scratch and I'm doing this the hardest way possible, Rusty. It's impossible. I'm bootstrapping a startup. It's like playing a video game on the hardest mode possible. Yeah. But if you win on the hardest mode possible, holy fuck, does that feel good? Right. Yeah. So I know who Clifford is. Clifford wants to win on the hardest mode possible. That's who Clifford is. And I know who he is because the Canadian government told me that I don't get employment insurance or any kind of support financially, that I have a pile of "you may be evicted soon" notices since June. These things don't scare me anymore because I'm going through them in real time. And I can tell you, it's not that scary. I could be at the threat of losing my home. You know, I'm a parent. I have a lot of shit. I will figure it out. I will be resilient. I will survive. I will pivot. I will find a way. Right. And I've had to do that many times, but the truth of the matter is I'm still standing. And the truth of the matter is if I'm going to build a company that's teaching an education stream that builds resilience in people, well, then I'm going to have to throw myself in the fucking fire. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and so now I can tell you today, I fucking know who Clifford is. And like, he's awake now. You know what I mean? Like that sleeper, he's awake now. And it's like, I'm so stoked for what we can do together. Like me working with creatives and collaborators. And like, I'm really excited for that, man. Like I'm excited for that more than anything, more than, you know, like there's a Canadian comic, Ryan Long, who was just on Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah.
Right. Ryan, he moved to New York years ago. Yeah. And I couldn't feel happier. I couldn't feel happier to see a Canadian comic who came up at the Corner Comedy Club, which is a small club in Toronto that was just about incubating comedy talent. Didn't matter who you were, what you were doing, that if you were there to really grow your talent and craft as a comedian, that was going to happen there. And then Ryan Long told the story of that club on that podcast, on that platform. And that to me was so amazing because these people that have been working on those projects for years haven't gotten any flowers. For years have just been heads down, working, getting it done. And to see their stories being told, it's so meaningful to me because like, I think the more we tell each other stories, the more that we're going to be able to learn from each other's stories. And especially when your values are aligned. Right. Yeah. So like, you know, I see Ryan's work ethic. It's clear he's great at what he does. Right. And I love that the Corner is still standing through all the ups and downs that they've had over the year. And they may actually be creating a template in Canada to create more comedy incubators, to create more independent comedy clubs, as opposed to the oligopoly that we have now. So like, I am optimistic about the direction of things that are going right now. And I think it's because the pandemic and the internet's brought us this ability to communicate more, normalize this. And I think, we're probably not even at the tip of the iceberg of what's going to happen to us as like a creative community. And the fact that you're in America and I'm in Canada, this is really important too, having like cross-border partnerships and relationships. That's really important too. So this is the fight I'm fighting, you know, bro. But it's one of those things where like 2 years from now, you may catch up with me and I'm like, you know, I'm on a park bench with a phone, be like, yeah, it didn't work out so well. I borrowed this phone from Tiffany at the barbershop. Oh, you know, like
here's a picture of my meal.
Super into crack now. Right? Like that's not good. And like that might be the case for me, you know, but too. Like you could be you too. But that's the thing. If you're not taking the risks, if you're not putting yourself forward, if you're not in the arena, then you don't get a say in your own life. And that to me, having a say in your own life is the real freedom. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of like, that's sort of where my mind goes when I try to think of what are we actually doing here. And I think a lot of what we talked about, we can kind of both look at it and go, oh, we still have so much to learn.
Yeah.
Isn't that a natural conclusion here? Like we have so much to learn. You know what I mean?
And you can't stop learning. You can't just go this, like, it's weird with science because like saying anything in science is a fact because of science is wrong, because like science is always evolving, as are we. And like what is one thing today might not be the same thing tomorrow. And whereas like, and then another thing, like what you're saying with Ryan Long, like getting on to like one of the biggest platforms in the world and being able to fucking put over the fucking place that, is that you're from, man, and just being able to.
And that's I mean, he was doing his thing his way on his terms, right? He took the risk to go to America to make the goals he had happen. And, not every comedian can take that risk, right? Not every Canadian comic worth their salt can go to America. So, that's where I'm trying to think of the future of Canadian comedy, of like, well, how can we foster a better comedy community in Canada to be able to equip people to have enough money to be able to afford a visa if they want to. I really believe in the idea that comedians should have good groceries on their table. I think like that idea alone will help reduce suicides and mental health issues and drug addiction, like that I see so much in stand-up. That's stuff that really matters to me because, we've lost a good bit of friends over the years to that kind of stuff. Yeah, and sure. And the more I talk to older comics, the more you see it, right? They're like, yeah, once I hit 40, I lost this guy. I had friends that were friends with Brody Stevens, right? And like that one hit the comedy world really hard. And that kind of shit, if I could create a system that helps comedians make money off comedy while still being able to learn, still being able to do their thing, even without a star system. And then they can, if they want to take that risk and nurture their talent and go elsewhere, they can, or they can like learn the skills entrepreneurially to scale themselves online. They can pick a platform and dominate, right? Like there's a lot of like Che Durena. He's a Canadian comedian who's like 7 million subscribers on TikTok. And he used that to leverage himself going into the States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've seen that guy.
He's done stuff with Ryan Long too. He's the guy who's like, follow me, you fuckers.
Follow me, you fucking idiots. That's his
fucking
the best
idiots. Okay, yeah.
The best call to action of all time. Follow me, you fucking idiots. Right. So like and these are all good dudes. Like I've performed with these guys, they're good guys. You know what I mean? Like they really love comedy. They care about comedy. They're trying to set comedy up for success. I'm saying we got to look at them. We have to look at them, look at what they're doing successfully, and understand that it's their choices that are doing this. Their choices to produce, their choices to create content, their choices to detach themselves from preciousness in their material, their choices to not care what others think about them. Like these choices are the choices they're making. If you make the same choices, you will continue to grow. You will continue to grow professionally and personally. Like these are going to be good for you. It's not about clout. It's not about status. It's not about trying to get from here to there. It's literally about trying to be the best you that you want to be. And like, when I think about that for Clifford, I don't think, oh, I grow this company and I get the fuck out of Canada. Right. I think like I continue living in this little beach town. I fly to places when I need to go do a thing. And then I come home and I go back to trivia on Tuesday nights with my friends. And we make fun of Cam, the trivia host, and eat macaroni and cheese. And then I go with my kid to the beach. And then we talk about if Spider-Man could beat up Batman. And this is what we do. Like for me, I'm like, no, it's a big and small life that I truly crave. I crave the intimate, the personal, but I crave the ambitious and the story, right? Like I crave that too. And I think like, I really believe there's wiggle room to change the way we approach comedy in Canada. And that's why like people are like, it's almost weird that I'm creating a new form of comedy work, right? I'm literally starting this, I'm trying to start this idea of offstage comedy work, right? Like ways for comedians to make money while they're not on stage. The pandemic just showed that glaring hole for me that like all my friends lost their living like that. Unless we did a Zoom show where we had to perform to someone's weird hug, you know what I mean? Like it was awful, you know what I'm saying? And so like, I'm like, no, but like there's roles that are comedy adjacent that are good for comedians, like a facilitator. You can facilitate a comedy experience. You can use your emotional intelligence skills to help people in real time. You're actually going to get the same thrill that you get from the stage being in an instant feedback environment. Like I promise you the parameters are there to feed what you like about comedy, but we're going to do it in a different way and you're going to make more money. So like that's what I'm trying to do here And you got to understand, Rusty, I'm getting like when people are trying to understand what I'm trying to do, I get a lot of questions, curiosity, objections, and
Right.
I need to listen to all of it. You ever hear feedback is a gift, right? Like I need to listen to every single piece of this and then go, okay, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me. Thank you for telling me why you thought this was shit. Thank you for telling me what you like about this. Thank you. Because now I can pivot and maybe I'll get to this big fucking goal of mine that I seem to be the only one really obsessing over. And that's probably because I'm the only one that's meant to obsess over this.
Right. And with art too, like this, where I was saying with art too, like if people are caring that much to say that like is shit, is fucking stupid, it means you're fucking it's fucking awesome. It means you're fucking doing something. You're fucking, it's obviously getting into their fucking thing to like have a feeling about it, as opposed to just Clifford's fucking making something. Okay, well, great. It's like, dude, it's making people feel something, which is like, is at least questioning a lot of things and being able to like, they're scared because they've never heard of it before. It's like you're saying with the people with the guns, like they're not don't know about like what this other life is. I want something for a little bit of like, this is, I don't know.
And people without guns have feelings, and like people with guns have feelings. And what you're saying about feeling, like if you can make someone feel like they really do belong and that they can contribute and that they listen and that like make them feel that it's okay to think differently than me, right? Like it's okay for you to think that way. Like I have some friends that like, woo, like some of my closest friends have the most dog shit opinions, just dog shit, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, why are you thinking of this? Why are you thinking of it that way? And he's like, oh, I heard it from this, and then I thought about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, let me tell you. And like, that's how it's going, right? Where I'm just like, slap you on the face, get out of here, you piece of garbage. And I remember one time at when the Trump thing was really getting big, I actually had a Trumper over for dinner. Him and his wife, mine, and he was talking to me about trans people in the military. And he was in the military. So let's understand his context. He served.
Context,
right? He served time, and he just said, I'm afraid that if a woman with a smaller body is identifying as a male, that she won't be able to save me from dying. Like same as I would be nervous if it was a very small male, right? And he told me this perspective, and what I was hearing was this guy is feeling fear. This guy is feeling fear over this thing. I do think that like what's valid is his fear. Right?
Yeah, not just so, I hate trans people and keeping out of the fucking military.
I don't think he's anti-trans. That's not where I think he was coming from. I think he was coming from a place where just scared.
His own life is, can be possibly threatened. Like, and he's open to admit that, say that like that.
Well,
that scares me.
In that whole conversation, the thing I disagreed with the most was probably being in the military, right? Like I'm kind of like, don't do that. Don't do the thing that almost guarantees there's a chance you might get killed.
Probably get killed. Yeah.
That to me is just like, oh no. But like that's just my perspective. But I understand if someone feels so called upon to serve for their country that they feel this real conviction in their lives, like that is a hell of a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Hell of a sacrifice, especially for the intentions of people at the top. We know are not good. We know that they are okay with our kids dying for their agendas, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But while I'm talking to someone in that boat, I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, these people just have this agenda. You're just being used and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's like, man, yeah, you made that choice to be there and you're afraid for your life. And that's like a real thing you're wrestling with. And I'm here to listen, man, pass the roast beef.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not in that position. Like I wouldn't have known that, had we not talked about it. And that's, a completely different perspective than we both have different views on it. We both have different on everything, and it's okay to have conflicting views, and it's okay to have these discussions. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's okay to be uncomfortable. If you I like saying this one, I even said this on a Mormon talk show, but it got cut out for some reason. Once you shit your pants, you can't shit your pants anymore. Like you're feeling uncomfortable, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable, but like at that point you're free, like, and it's okay. Everything's okay.
That really is it, right? If we can get to the people generally, like if we can get culture to the point where it embraces discomfort, like we start seeing discomfort merchants popping up in all sorts of different realms, not just comedy. Like, you know, like someone like David Goggins talks about physical discomfort, right? Someone like I might mix up his name, Gal something, like he talks about childhood trauma. Sorry, his name escapes me right now.
That's okay.
But like he's talking about emotional pain, right? Emotional discomfort, that kind of thing. And that, like, there's these different discomfort merchants, like even someone like Jordan Peterson, who's full on going into the culture war, maybe flaming it. But anyways, that guy is, he's full head into it.
Yeah.
We learn from his altercations. We learn from his impassioned delivery, right. We learn from like the things that he says that are positive and resonate with us, and the things that are negative that we don't agree with. We actually learn from both. So,
or someone like Steven Crowder, who's kind of doing the same thing, just like opening, like, everyone has their different views, and it's like, let's fucking talk about it. It's okay.
I personally would never go out of my way to be like, hey, I did a lot of work today. I think I'd like to sit down and enjoy a podcast. I'm going to put on some Steven Crowder. Like, that's not a Clifford move. I'm going to be putting on Theo Vaughn. I'm going to be putting on Ryan and Danny talking on the Boys Cast, right? I'm going to put on this stuff that was just like being around the kind of people I tend to be friends with and hang with, and just like the kind of because they're so fucking extra, right? Like they have JJ Lieberman on their show a lot, and JJ, I once traveled 4 hours to Windsor with that kid, and he is an animal, like an absolute animal. Like his perspective on life, he makes me so uncomfortable. He's such an uncomfortable human being, and God bless him for it to a degree, right? He's on stage talking about like, I'm gay now, I got shit on my dick, and I'm like, what is happening? And I'm just like, but this guy's just going for it. And it took me years to like not like look at someone like him and think of it as an affront. And like I need to look at him and be like, oh, this is the way he's contributing to this idea space. And that's really what entertainment is. Entertainment, I kind of believe, is education disguised, right? Like it's like it really is like we learn from people's choices, we learn from their reactions, we learn from the story, we end up, everyone, because we have a natural inclination to try to think differently about something so we don't sound like other people, like we tend to try to start breaking down the edges to get to the greatest thing. Like I think we should look at that as, oh, we're a really fucking cool species. Like we're cool.
Yeah.
We're cool as fuck. We're way better than raccoons. Like we're so cool that we can do all this stuff, that we can have this conflict and we learn from it, that we go at each other's throats and it makes us better, right? Like we created war so we could advance technologically, probably to the point where there'll be no war one day. Oh my God, what is happening? Fuck, right? We're a cool species, man.
Yeah, here we are. We're in a way, we're, it's like watching the nature. Nature is metal. What was it?
That's there's a lot of them. There's a lot of like types of things. There's any kind of those Instagram channels that are showing nature being fucking awful. Like it's scary. Yeah. Like this is how, like, if I see like an alligator fucking eating a wildebeest or I don't know, what some shit, right? I'm just like, oh my God, hideous. And then like I think about like, so Doug Stanhope, he's a comedian that's been discomfort merchant his entire career, right? He is the goat of discomfort ism or whatever. Yeah, I just made this term up today, really. But like Doug Stanhope has a bit in, I think it's his most recent special. He opens up with like this fake apology to the crowd for everything he's about to say. It's very funny, tongue-in-cheek. And then he has a whole bit about this this father losing his son to being eaten by an alligator. And he's talking about being in a tug of war with your kid as the rope with an alligator. It's so uncomfortable. I'm a father, and it filled me with fear, and it filled me with sadness and tragedy. Like, this comedian made me feel so desperate for this man who lost his kid this way. It made me scared of nature. It made me never want to visit Florida. Like, a lot was happening in my mind.
There's a lot of reasons not to visit Florida.
but you see what I'm saying, though, is like, my God, I'm so glad I listened to that bit. It really got me self-reflecting. I actually came out of it going like, fuck, I love my son. He's still here, and I love him so much, man.
You know, took you along that journey with him, and it took you into like a deep emotional instance that makes you reflect in yourself just by words that he's saying. Makes you really reflect on yourself and your situation with your son. It makes you feel that fucking hard, and with an outcome of going from him talking about doing tug of war with a fucking kid and an alligator to someone that in the audience going, I fucking love my son. Like, that's a fucking emotional roller coaster, man. And that's isn't that strong.
Crazy? I don't think he did that as the outcome, but that's what I experienced. Right. Like I experienced that from him, and oh man, like, you know, like then let's go back to what we were saying about owning all your bullshit. Like, when you're saying like, I fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Well, like if I were to lose my kid to an alligator tomorrow, I would feel like shit for making his mom's life harder today. So maybe I shouldn't argue with her today. Maybe I'm not going to send that email. Maybe I'm not going to send that flippant text, right? Like, maybe I'm going to do the thing that's best for my son, which is to just let his mom be and let her not have to deal with conflict. You know, I started really reflecting on me, because at the end of the day, it really comes to our choices, man. Right? It comes to our choices. It comes to like, I am choosing to learn from this. I'm choosing to be better from this, or I'm choosing to ignore this. I'm choosing to avoid this. Right? Like, the moment we're done this, I have to go swimming because I have to stop being fat. And I hate this. I hate moving my body. It's a useless thing for me. If I could spend my entire life on a corner chair talking to comedians, doing shit like this, playing some Hearthstone, learning, and then going out to do one show and coming back, that would be my entire life. But that means I may not get to see my kid live long enough to sell porn at the age of 17. So I need some longevity, right? And like, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like, I really want to be alive. I want to live long enough to try to see this through. I want to live long enough to see the Other Comedy Company build into a thing. I want to see Canadian comedy get back to its punk roots and fucking thrive. And like, I want to live long enough to see it. And that happens if I choose to go swimming today. And if I choose to eat spinach and chicken today, like, that's what happens. Right. Yeah. I would rather order, 2 double cheeseburgers, but like, just not today.
Yeah. Do you have one thing with the pool? So I swim a few times because I fucking gotten the same thing, and but I found a heated pool. If you look around, man, if you maybe type in
this pool's kind of heated,
it makes the experience a bit better. If you're going to be getting into a pool, like, having that heated part definitely makes it.
I like it, but I use the sauna before going in, so no matter even if it's warmed up, it feels cold. Yeah. I've been doing 15 minutes in the sauna.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot of clarity of thought to think about these ideas that I really care about. So like, these ideas we're talking about, I'm thinking about this every single day. when I'm in the sauna, like maybe like today when I go into the sauna, I'm going to think about like what you're like jobs that kids do to just try to make money and learn how to, that may be considered unsavory to modern society, right? Like, and I'm gonna be like, why do we react that way? Where's our morality come from? Who's telling us to do this? Why aren't we mentoring and nurturing these children? Like literally, I'm gonna be sitting there in the sauna, sweating, not able to breathe, and like, oh, and then I come out of it, and like the end answers are always like this, is like you move forward and you create opportunities for yourself to talk about these ideas more. Like I'm looking to, you literally had me on as a guest because I posted in a podcast group, I'm willing to guest on a podcast, right? Yeah. That's how we're here. And I'm willing to guest on this podcast because you were a person that's open to ideas and open to talking to different people.
Yeah. And, I had to, but, I also will turn away people.
Of course,
because
if it's like, not aligned, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even if it's aligned or not, but even if it's like, I can tell that we're going to be able to talk, like, cause like with it being, I have hunches. My hunches have been pretty decent with this format. Like, yeah, because I don't have any fucking questions written down. I fucking hate doing that, dude. That's not what this thing's about. It's about fucking
you roll with
I didn't know we were gonna be talking about what fuck we were talking about. I didn't know we were gonna talk about any of this shit, dude. And like here we are, man. But
and because I come from this whole like strength and improv thing, I'm very much like, yeah, let's roll. Let's yes and each other. Let's go with this. And I actually think this has been a great conversation. Yeah, and one of the things that I just want to correct myself what I was saying about the alignment thing. I meant like alignment in terms of they're an open person, you're an open person, that's aligned. So if I come to you and go, hey, I'm just here to tell you about my specific packages for my comedy company, and I only want to try to get customers out of this exchange, and that's all I want to do here, you'd be like, oh, that's really not aligned to what I do. What would be more aligned is if you came in and talked about the ideas behind what you're doing. That is aligned with me. And like that is what I'm talking about, is like, you are an open person. There's no way you could be aligned with a closed person or a fixed mentality. You just wouldn't be. You would see through the bullshit. You would feel used. You wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to send it out to my fucking people listening, dude. Like,
that's it. Right? Like you want to give them a good show, right? Like, I understand that too. Especially I've been watching wrestling more lately to teach myself dedication to your craft, because there's no one more dedicated to the craft than wrestlers. They are literally in the middle of 5-year-long storylines. They're crazy, these people. And I grew up with a wrestler who has gone through some heat in the media, has got some court stuff going on and whatnot. He did pretty well for himself. He was in New Japan Wrestling and stuff like that for a while. ROH, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
You might know who I'm talking about, but like that, I caught up with him recently and getting into stand-up comedy, and it was interesting. It was interesting seeing that transition, because like I've always believed when life goes to shit that there's a mic there, and you have a chance at redemption if you step up to that mic. Like there's something to me where like he's going through that personal ownership journey, that taking inventory of your life journey. And I'm not going to cut someone off at the heels and be like, oh, you're not welcome here because you fucked up with A, B, or C, or allegedly fucked up with A, B, or C, whatever it may be. It's one of those things where it's like, no, I really believe in the freedom to just try to let someone own their bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that goes a long fucking way.
Yeah. Like, well, what we were talking about earlier, like, taking ownership of fucking up, like, and just going up and telling the fucking group of strangers that you fucked up.
I am a fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah. And make it about yourself. Like it wasn't, I got fucking dealt this fucking hand. Like I fucked up, and here's the fucking, I'll take you along on this journey. I'll make you fucking laugh about it.
You know what scares me, talking about like, personal perspectives, is people who don't think they fucked up. they scare the fucking shit out of me.
Yeah.
You didn't fuck up. Like there's leaders that had to like lay off thousands of people and they don't go, I fucked up. Right? They don't do that. And I'm like, oh, you're so scary to me. Like that. Yeah. That's scary when you have someone, and that's the thing. Every gripe you've seen about politicians, any side, it's literally you're not owning what you're doing. We can see through this. You're not owning this. We can see through this. Like, imagine today, Nancy Pelosi goes on screen and goes, all right, we've been laundering a little bit. Yeah, we've been laundering some money. You know what? We've been doing it a lot, actually. I'll tell you what we've been doing. I've been giving tips and I've been making these deals, and now I'm going to take personal ownership and consequences for this because I shouldn't have done it. And I know that saying this out loud will help everyone move forward because I'm such a big representative in this thing, and admitting to something that's, you know, a crime, I'll at least give a court a chance to decide whether or not it is. So imagine that happened. I would, a lot of people that are fucking mad at Nancy Pelosi suddenly respect her because she did the right thing for humanity, right? It was like, oh, that was like really good for someone in a position of authority to specifically own their bullshit and admit how they fucked up and then take the consequences for it, right? Yeah. Like that's what, like, people try to resort to the lynch mob mentality, right? Like when they went after Louis CK, right? Like he sent out an email the night before and he signed it Louis CK, a human, and he was clearly in an emotional state of feeling what was about to happen. When he released his thing, he was
the special.
No, not after. He actually released a response to the New York Times article where he said what these women are saying is true. He validated the victims. He owned his end of it. And then he fucked off for a little bit and then went back into doing comedy. And then everyone was so upset that he got back into comedy because they were like, oh, it's not long enough. And I'm like, what's enough?
Yeah, what's enough?
What are you talking about? Like the way I see it is someone owned it. We have no idea what therapy he went to or what he did. And to be honest, we don't get to know that.
Yeah.
We don't get to know that, right? Like we were just the audience in a story. We were watching a story, and right. And the thing is, the truth of it is like, you can vilify him all you want, but he admitted to what he did. And if there was to be anything like prosecuted worthy on that, then like they would have continued, right? He admitted to it, like, like open and shut case, Johnson, you know, like we're good. And that's what I'm saying is like, we have to look at things a little bit more 4D and not just so black and white, not so like this or that. Like, it's not like that. Saying Louis CK should be able to perform comedy isn't any commentary on the victims, on their lives, on their validity, right? They're not less valid because that's valid. You know what I mean? Like, but like people are like, oh no, you're picking a side. And it's like, no, I just kind of see victimhood differently than you do. I think Louis CK was also a victim in that situation, that he was, he let power go to his head, and, you know, he was a victim of the star system and Hollywood ideas and a lot of what that culture was. You can't deny that, right? Or like, right. Or a victim of the 80s parenting or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like there's always some catalyst that creates an idea that traps you in a way of thinking that gets you caught up. You do the wrong fucking thing, and then like you got to really eat crow on it. And like I think watching him now, like his specials are much more comedically free because he's been burned. He was like Mr. Oh, Louis CK is the best. It was so fucking annoying. Louis CK is the best. Oh, every comedian should aspire to be Louis CK. Yeah. And
show's the greatest thing.
Oh yeah,
everyone.
His show is the greatest. Everything this guy touches is fucking gold. And then like here I am being like, my favorite comedian's Levi McDougall, and like, you know, like, oh, because I have my own personal taste, and I was like affronted by everyone telling me who to like. Right? Like I was affronted as a comedy fan, you telling me that I'm supposed to think this guy's the GOAT for A, B, or C. You know, like I just never, in my opinion, I'd probably say Norm Macdonald's the GOAT. Right. And like, I would say Norm Macdonald's the GOAT over Dave Chappelle. And maybe that is a controversial opinion, but that means nothing. It weighs nothing to nobody. That's just Clifford's personal taste.
Yeah.
That's all.
Clifford fucking likes Norm Macdonald, dude.
Clifford fucking loves Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, it's not gonna make you fucking whoever you love. It's not gonna make the fact that you love fucking I don't want to fucking blast on some fucking comedian that sucks, but I mean, and that's okay. You both have your own fucking thing, and both are okay. Both answers are correct. Can
we actually snag on that just for a second? Because even the comedians that people like, oh, that comedian sucks. Like Liza Schlesinger gets so much hate for someone with such a strong work ethic, someone who shows up for her audience, someone who knows her crowd, someone who's mastered what she does, and she gets hate on all the time, right? And I look at her and I go, all right, keep hating on her. You're not going to match her work ethic. You're not going to match her output. You're going to fucking drown. Enjoy. Or learn from her. Learn from this person whose comedy you don't like. I don't have to like someone's comedy to learn a lot from them, to learn a shit ton of things from who they are and what they're doing. Stop looking at it like, oh, this is only to entertain me. Like, okay, if it's not entertaining you, then it's time to learn from it, bro. Why is this entertaining others? Why do others respond to this? Why do other people like her? What is she offering that's bringing something out of people? What the fuck is it? Right? Like, that to me is everything.
Yeah. And how can I do that? How can I fucking
in my own way? I love hearing who comics are shitting on, because I'm like, okay, the moment I hear someone shitting on someone, I just know there's blind spots. You know, I just know that there's things that you're not looking at. And like, I can tell you, I've gotten a lot of heat for my comedic style. A lot of people not liking how I do comedy. They find me too loud. They find me obnoxious. I've been told multiple times from comedians who work less than me that I'm not a real comedian. It's very interesting. It creates personal feelings of vendetta, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And then when I step back and I realize my role now, and that I can see all of life as an education curve, I just go, oh, I'm just on this plot point. They're on this plot point. This plot point has you react like this. My plot point has me react like this. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna hate me, but you might not. You know, I actually had an experience recently where someone reached out to me to make a sense of amends for them having very ill feelings of me over the past years, and they wanted to surge that from their life. You know, they didn't want to hold on to that, and it shocked me. I thought this person liked me. I thought we were Gucci, you know, like I did not understand that resentment was harbored. And when that came to my door and I had the opportunity to reconnect, I was like, well, this is such a gift. Thank you so much. You know, like, I'm so glad that I know this now and that I can learn from this. And I understand how people perceive me. I didn't understand that I was perceived that way before. You know, and like, I do lament that I didn't see it that way, because I do think we would have had a better outcome if my perspective was different. Right. But now I know that it's never going to happen again that way, because I'm a lot more aware of how I impact people. I understand that this conversation might rub people the wrong way. Oh, who's Clifford to be talking about this idea, that idea, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen him grinding at every mic this week. Right? It's like, my story is different than your story. I'm a dad. I'm living a slower life, like slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I'm taking my time building a business. I'm taking my time enjoying the time I have with my son while he's young. You know, like this, that's my priorities and values are in line, because I know who the fuck Clifford is. So when I see people griping like that, to myself, I just go, okay, you got to figure out yourself. Yep. You got to go figure out who you are.
Yeah. And they haven't. If they have enough time to fucking,
if they have enough time
to shit about you, that
anyone that has enough time to point the finger at you, that's why, like, anyone that we brought up today, I'm talking about it in a learning lens. I'm talking about it. What do we learn from them? I personally don't, dislike Liza Schlesinger. I watch her comedy specials. You know what I mean? I understand that other people do, right? Like,
Right.
Why can't I talk about it? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but like, whatever, right? Like, it's true. And I think the more we talk about it, the more people will get the courage to give themselves permission to talk about their ideas and the courage to be disliked, because at least 10% of people won't like what you're saying. Just go under that assumption. I like to go under the assumption that 90% of people won't like what I'm saying. So that way I try to say it as best I can. Right? Like, I try to say things to try to reduce that percentage. Like, I do want more people to connect to my message than not connect to the message. But I also understand that, like, that's going to depend on a variety of factors, that I'm not in control of. So
the main factor being it's them. The main factor is them, and it's not you.
Well, and that's the whole, like, you point the finger at me. Like, I'm telling you, if you're in that mode right now, I didn't get to that point in my life until I was 35, where I pointed the finger at me. I pointed the finger at every other person my entire life. I pointed it at just for laughs. Oh, they're the reason why I don't have the career I want, because they're not putting me on their show. And I pointed it on Yuck Yucks. Oh, the biggest club in the country won't even blink my way. I blamed it on everyone. I blamed it on this comic for not wanting to collaborate, and blamed it on this. And at the end of the day, when I started pointing the finger at me and going, well, you fucked up here, they didn't want to work with you because of this, the like blah blah blah, you actually rub people the wrong way when you were so assertive in this way, and I know I'm an incredibly assertive person. Like, I am the type of person that if I get ideas, I want to run with them, I want to talk and jam. And because I'm very confident, that can really rub people the wrong way. Right? Like, how is this guy so confident in his ideas, and why, like, he's just an attention whore? Like, I got that one when I was on stage. Oh, you're just an attention whore, and that kind of stuff. And at that time, I can tell you now, Rusty, I was an attention whore. Yeah,
and
you're right.
And it's okay.
You're right. I was. You're right. I was. And now I'm less of an attention whore because you're right. I want to have sex for the lovemaking, not just for the money. Right?
And you're not saying, hey, fuck you for saying that to me. Like, dude, you're fucking wrong. What the fuck do you know? Like, it's somebody else's perspective. I mean, people have other perspectives.
The person who said that about me actually legitimately does not like me. Like, they publicly said that they would like to see it if I were to kill myself. They said that publicly. Now, again, let's keep on the learning stream of pointing the finger at ourselves. What did I do to make someone feel that way? Well, I definitely know certain droplets that I was like, oh, I showed an amount of ego and propensity for self-grandizement that it really put him off and maybe put me in a box. And then when I slighted him on occasion 2, 3, and 4, that added fuel to the fire. And then when number 5 happened, he was done with it, said, you attention whore, kill yourself. And you look at that and you go, okay, man, I wish if I could go back in time, I wouldn't go back and wish that he didn't say that. I would go back to all those other instances and correct my interactions with him. I would correct my behavior. I'd correct what I did that led to him thinking that way. And it's not one of those things that we'll ever really be able to have a conversation on it. At that point, we're like, okay, well, I would never say that to another person. I'm moving on. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Right? Yeah. But I do believe that person is entitled to be educated and like to learn to the point where they can forgive me and move on with their lives, so they know it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if someone else is an attention whore. That doesn't really matter. That doesn't impact you. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure going through self-reflection, that ugliness would come to the surface and you have to address it. Right. And like, cool, that's your journey. We don't need to be on that journey together. Right. But I definitely, I want that person to be successful in life. I don't want them to be miserable. I've seen what happens when that person's miserable. oh, fuck, it feels horrible. So I hope they've become confident and comfortable in the life they're leading, to where they're not throwing that misery other people's way, you know? And like, I think that's fair to say that, like, if I'm going to say that everyone deserves a seat at the table, same with the guy who told me to kill myself.
Yeah.
You know, and that's uncomfortable, but hey, pass the potatoes.
Fucking right, man. Cool. Let's cool. Get that. I can't talk. Well, let's fucking call it there, man. I like that. It's a good way to end. Yeah. Pass the fucking potatoes. Pass whatever the fuck else you got, man.
That'd be a good, I don't know if you name your podcast. That'd be a good podcast title, Pass the Potatoes.
Well, you know, I'm all right. I'm writing that down. Okay. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, so to give away my secrets, for my podcast description and episode title, I have ChatGPT do it. And I, you know, like, because I like to get, like, I don't know shit about SEO or fucking Google ranking or
use the
how to
tools
write that
available.
shit. And like, we were talking about earlier with comedy too, like the same thing. Like, dude, like I put in jokes when I started fucking writing jokes in 2012 and fucking giving them like, give me 10 new punchlines in my style. Like, here they are. Like, and then dude, like some of them are funnier than what I had. And I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, it's hard. This is going
to be a fun exploration, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So thanks for doing this, man. I'm happy we got to we didn't know each other before this, dude. We'd spoken a few words over Facebook Messenger, and that's it, man. And
we never met, but I'm glad the vibes were there, bro. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I think we had a really great nuanced conversation that hopefully people can look on and think about some of these ideas and self-reflect. And I honestly, just hopefully everyone leaving a little bit more hopeful today from this Tuesday podcast we did, you know, bro.
Yeah.
I thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for being on. And how are people gonna find you? And find what you do.
I'm Clifford Myers. Clifford like the big red dog, Myers like the serial killer. So at Clifford Myers on Instagram and Twitter, at Clifford Myers Comedy. If you want to see me telling AI jokes and trying to punch up what the jokes that ChatGPT comes up with, I've been doing that as a little series over there. And my special... Yeah, so that's fun. And my special Odyssey is available for free on Clifford Myers YouTube channel. And if you're interested in learning more about the Other Comedy Company, theothercomedy.co. That's us, man. And we're going to continue doing our thing, being punk and building this fucking thing that no one knows exists.
Now they will, man. Now they're gonna know. And now it's out there. It's out there. It was out there in the world. It's out there in the world more now.
It's in the ether.
Yeah, it's in the ether, dude. Fucking, it's gonna pick up someone when they're fucking typing in their fucking AI joke. It's gonna have enough fucking metadata on here that it's gonna start picking it up, putting that into the universe more. So, dude, yeah, fucking awesome talking with you and meeting you. And everyone, thank you for listening to here. Yeah, dude. I don't know. I say like, subscribe, and share now. That was something I didn't do. I always thought that was fucking dumb. But you know what? I'm gonna start. I started saying that on my last show, and because you know, it's one of those things like people might do it because they heard it at the end. They weren't going to.
They may do it. Well, if you're still listening right now, not just like, comment, and share, but actually respond to what we're talking about. Engage with the ideas. Engage with the conversation. That is going to make Rusty a better podcast host. That's going to make the podcast better. It's going to make your community better. And you get to be a part of that community, and you get a voice in it too. So definitely do that. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure to engage with what we're actually talking about, because we want to hear your ideas too. This has to be a feedback loop.
Yeah, I fucking love it, man. You guys, that is the show, man.